organizations. You can find different organizations that with like-minded people who shared your common interests. But other than doing like a career, like meet and greet, ask questions, no, we didn't have that. So I was a little bit elated, especially because speaking to my advisor, I was telling her about one of the assessments that I had to take pertaining to basically just trying to see where I am if I wanted to get on a different career path. And I was telling her the assessment kind of picked a different major for me, and I was like, that's a little strange. I said, but and it, at the end of it, it asked, have I felt like considering changing my major? And I was like, no, this is exactly what I signed up for. Um, you don't wait till you 40 to decide to go back to school and then decide to change your major. So absolutely not. This is what I'm doing. This is what I decided. And I said, for someone who wasn't as strong-willed or strong-minded, they probably would have been like, oh my God, well, maybe this assessment was right. Maybe I'm good at this thing. No, I think a lot of it had to do with a lot of my background and different various work fields that I've been into. But I'm excited to get up here. I got my pen ready, my paper ready, so I can take some notes and ask questions.
Well, I appreciate that. I like that kind of feedback. I always for this session, I'm actually I go back and look at the responses just like that to make sure that I'm keeping everything on point and relatable ways that actually help and just not something that's thrown into the curriculum. But I appreciate what you all just said, and
Yeah.
I think that that's one of the main reasons why Mr. Cochran actually approached me. He's on with us today. He's our guest speaker. He actually approached me, and it's not often that, hey, Mr. Cochran, in from when as long as I've been doing this, that people just come along and offer themselves as a resource like that. And so I appreciate the heck out of Mr. Cochran's time today, even if it's just exposure to someone who is in a field that relates directly to one of the many branches of the Homeland Security family tree as it's beginning to grow in this day and time. This is something that is directly relatable to what we not only what we study, but just an entire area that I think is often under considered, and that's with Mr. Cochran's lane and the Department of Corrections, and I think one of the things that is reflected with those of us who are sitting here right now is that we've lived some life. A lot of students who are they're 17, 18 years old, God bless them, and they've never even filled out a W-4. So I hope that if they ever get a chance to, I hope the other students will join us as we go along for as long as Mr. Cochran is with us in this hour. But I think those are the folks, frankly, who need this as much as anybody. But I'll go ahead and step aside and give Mr. Cochran the floor. But first, I would like, since we have a small group, Mr. Sparks and Ms. Covington, for you two to introduce yourselves to Mr. Cochran, and then we'll let him get going and introduce himself to us and to have his say.
How you doing, Mr. Cochran? My name is Christopher Sparks, former United States Marine, 27 years, operations chief in the infantry. Now working security at Norfolk Public Schools.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, I'm Ebony Covington. I am a readmit single mom of 4, pursuing my Homeland Security's degree.
Nice to meet you both. It's
Well,
nice to be here. I can relate to both of you actually. I did 4 years in the United States Marine Corps. I did not do 27, but I did 4. I was a motor transport operator. So I seen Mr. Sparks' background immediately over there. So I also have 4 children. I'm not single, but my wonderful wife is a preschool teacher, so I know how I can relate to both of you. I did my 4 years in the Marine Corps, and then I went to the prison system uh, while I worked on my degree. I did Purdue University. I used my GI Bill, so I recommend, if you know anybody, that it's a good tool to use, and hopefully everybody's taking advantage of that. And then I've moved over here to probation parole for the state of North Carolina, and I've been here for around 3 years total. So I got about 2 years in the prison and 3 years with probation, and I love it. And recently, in the past few months, they've put me in um, this role as a recruiter. So I get to talk about the job I love and kind of spread the knowledge about what probation parole is, because we are the Department of Adult Correction. And then always first thing people think of is prison. And it's not just prison, it's community supervision is a large part of it. We're the biggest. We have over 2,000 employees just in probation parole alone. So we're a very big part of the community. And it's much more far reaching than people realize. If I could relate it to Homeland Security, people think it's just probation. It's just, it's low level stuff, but we supervise a lot of high level individuals that might just got caught up in low level stuff. And it's far more reaching. We work with a lot of federal agencies. We have DEA task force people. We have those officers that got unfortunately killed in Charlotte last April. They were with the Marshals task force. We work with the Marshals a lot. I've done several extraditions as well to other states. I've been to Texas, Oklahoma, California, Pennsylvania, things like that I never knew was a thing. But North Carolina has a far-reaching federal things that you won't realize unless somebody kind of tells you, because the information is not really out there. So I'm kind of glad to go over basically what probation parole post release is in a nutshell, and answer any questions anybody has or clarify anything. And there's no dumb question, I promise you, because there's a lot of misconceptions with probation, and we have specific authority as certain law enforcement capacities that regular law enforcement doesn't have. So if I had to put probation in a nutshell, and this is how I explain it to a group of high school kids, and I've used this example ever since, it's basically like your parents are grounding you for getting like a bad grade on your report card, except it's a criminal charge. The government has said, or the local government has said, oh, well, you've done something wrong, so we're going to take some of your rights away. We're going to take your cell phone away. We're going to take your Fourth Amendment right away. That is a very large part of what probation parole, our specific powers are for the general statute, that your Fourth Amendment right to unlawful search and seizure essentially goes away while you're on probation or parole. We can search you, your person, your car, your house, or anything that you are under control of for any reason we deem necessary towards your supervision. And that is a very unique power that we have that regular law enforcement cannot do. And we work hand in hand with law enforcement because, especially with vice narcotics, with Homeland, I've worked with the federal agencies because they've been watching somebody and their ticket in to the house is us. They just call us and we can get them into the house. And then as soon as we find something, say a gun or drugs or et cetera, that's their ticket to build their case. So we're a very good asset to traditional. If you hear me, if I talk about it, traditional law enforcement, just like regular cops on the street. But one of the main things that the state of North Carolina has identified really is if somebody is caught stealing from Walmart, that's, petty larceny, misdemeanor larceny stuff, or they're in possession of drugs, they're getting all these DWIs. We got a lot of DWIs, or they're getting these assaultive charges, domestic violence charges, sexual charges, sexual assault on children, child porn, things like that. They like to get to the identify what the issue is, because they found just locking these people up and putting them in jail for 30 days won't stop them from being addicted to cocaine or fentanyl, and they don't get the help that they need to overcome that addiction that caused them to steal in the first place, or to have them break and enter into these businesses in the first place. So our main goal is rehabilitation. It's in our little logo right here. It's rehabilitation and re-entry into society. They want these people that are on probation to have a good re-entry into society, because if we just throw them in jail, they come back out, nothing's changed. They just have more of a disdain for law enforcement. So we build relationships with these people. We see them. Somebody on a sex offender can be on probation for up to 10 years in the state of North Carolina. So we could potentially see somebody for, up to 10 years. And you're seeing these people once to twice, 3 times a month, and you get to know their families. That you see them through births of children, deaths of loved ones, getting fired from jobs, getting new jobs, getting their GEDs, getting their college degrees, positive things in their life. So I'd say that's why I didn't want to do traditional law enforcement, I would say, because they enforce the law as they see it, and then they bring them to jail or whatever, and then they don't really ever see that person again unless they reoffend. We see them on the back end. We have to get to know them personally. We have to get to know their job, where they live, how they act, what's the right treatment thing for them. And we follow up. It's like a half social work, half law enforcement job, I would say. It's not just traditional lock them up, on to the next one. Now, let me just say there is aspects of this job where if you want to do that, you can chase people that are absconding or willfully avoiding supervision. You can do that. There is drug courts or specialty courts like mental health courts, that if you're more the treatment side and you want to work with the treatment providers more intensely, you can do that. But there's also if they don't comply with those treatment aspects, then we might have to bring somebody to jail. It's not always the first option, but it is what it is. So it's a good mix. I really enjoy the different alternatives, because like I said, traditional law enforcement, they don't really have alternatives. They're either arrest or not. They just move along. I enjoyed, even though these people have frustrated me over time, I enjoy working in my community. I did mostly domestic violence is what I did. So there's a victim. I don't, and I don't claim to, I've never been a victim of anything like that, but there's victims in these cases that if you were victim in something, you would want some accountability, and you would want somebody to be on the person who did you wrong and to hold them accountable for these type of things. Make sure they go to these domestic violence classes, because in North Carolina, there's a domestic violence offender program. They must complete 26 weeks worth of class. It was 26 sessions, but 26 sessions of classes that help identify their anger issues, what type of abuser they are, etc., so that these people don't do it again. so that they can restore the relationship with their family. It may have been a wife, you know, a kid, a other family member, mom's, dad, whatever, but trying to restore these relationships and see these people succeed, it's a good feeling. It doesn't happen all the time, but you know, it's good to see the change in somebody. And again, sometimes, you know, the negative is sometimes these people don't change. And you just kind of get, even though you can't stop trying, trust me, I've had somebody do 2 years with me, and then a month later, they're right back on a new case with me. And you got to start over, and you just do what you got to do. You just do what the judge and the court orders. It can be, you know, any law enforcement or criminal justice job it's gonna be like that. You just got to keep trying. Don't let the bad stuff outweigh the good, because you're making a difference in the community, whether you know it or not. And if you're doing things the right way, people will know you for the right reason, and they won't have such a disdain for law enforcement. And that's always been my goal, is to have a positive interaction with anybody I meet, because you go into these houses and you see these people that all they've known is their whole life is bad, bad, bad. And if you go in there positively with a good attitude, even though you're there for a negative reason, you know, I wouldn't be there if I didn't have to be there, but it's, you just have to leave a good lasting impression. And I feel like I do a pretty good job about that. So it's main thing is, our agency is the biggest in the state of North Carolina, our law enforcement side. Like I said, we have over 1,800 certified officers, and then I think 400 or 500 supervisors. So we're in all 100 counties of North Carolina. We're even in a little Elizabeth City up there. There's a couple officers up there. I'm in New Hanover County, which is all the way at the very bottom. So I appreciate Mr. Bishop not having me drive all the way up there, even though I would have. That's about 4 hours from me. So I'm down here in Wilmington, and Wilmington is the smallest county, but yet we're growing in population. So we have about 60 officers in my county. But say the smaller county, the little finger counties up there, as they call them, they only have maybe 3 officers up there, because the population is not as large. In those type of counties, you see the same people over and over again. But we're in all 100 counties. So we have, if you probably have seen our little car, if not, you'll pay attention next time you're out, you'll see a little car with a little logo right there driving around. We're everywhere. So if you ever see us, you know, we have a little vest that say probation, or we have a little badge, just say hello. And I promise you, most of us are very nice, and we'll, you know, talk to you if you would like. I've not met anybody mostly that's not. I'll talk to anybody. I don't care, because again, I like to have a nice impression, and that's why I like this job, because it gave me little swag things, and I can give it out to people, and people will remember when they look at a pen and be like, "Oh, that guy was pretty nice." But there's some. I say I'm trying to think of a negative of the job, to try to just be transparent. I said it can wear on you like regular law enforcement, because you are at the mercy of the courts. So you could do your job 100% correctly. I build an airtight case of why this person keeps violating probation. You found drugs on them, you found guns on them, et cetera. But the court lets them go instead of putting them in jail or prison. And they keep doing that over and over and again. And then they finally go out there and hurt somebody. I've had that plenty of times, where the judge keeps letting them go, and then they go and beat their wife half to death. And you're just like, if they would have just listened to me, and that can wear on you, you know, but you just got to keep moving on, and just don't let it bother you, if that sense. But the state of North Carolina has done a very good job lately in these past few years of trying to take care of us, as in we have new initiatives to take care of mental health, because we do see a lot of messed up stuff. I mean, again, you're going in these houses. I've had to Narcan several people. You see, again, you see dead bodies. You see kids living in trailers that are just holes in the floor, and you're just like, how are you living like this? And their parents are meth addicts, and you're just like, you can't comprehend it in your brain because you're like, why wouldn't you just take care of your children? But those people, something else has got a hold of them, and you just got to do what's best to try to get these people in the right place. And so the state has done a little bit better job mental health wise. They've offered us free mental health, like peer-to-peer counseling, which has been good from what I've heard. I haven't had to use it, but I've heard, because if I explain to you all these things, y'all might not have seen what I've seen or experienced what I experienced. So if I to say all these things, you're like, wow, that sucks, but you've never been there. So a lot of us, just like in the military, is like, well, you've never been there, so you don't really understand what I've seen, what I've did. So like your opinion, not that it doesn't matter, but it doesn't make you feel any better. So they've made a peer-to-peer thing where you can pretty much vent your frustrations, as long as you're not a harm to yourself or others, and you could get it out, which is what a lot of us need, because we do see a lot. But day-to-day operations, not that I'm jumping around, but day-to-day operations for a probation officer, you get a caseload of, depends on the county. New Hanover County, it's about 40 to 50 people, and you just got to supervise them as they see fit. Every case is different. You see the same type of stuff, but every case is different. Domestic violence people are supervised a little bit different than people are on for a DWI, for example. But you get what's called a judgment from court when they're sentenced for the plea, and it tells you all like how many jail days were suspended, what their conditions are, do they have to go to a certain treatment program, DWI treatment, drug treatment, do they have to complete anger management, abuser program, etc. The things are endless, especially in Wilmington. We have a lot of treatment options down here, and you just have to enforce and give hard deadlines to these people to complete these type of things. Say you have 60 days to get this assessment done, or we're going to have to violate your probation, take you back in front of the judge essentially, and show that you tell the judge why you didn't go do your treatment. Because you can tell me all day, but I'm not the one that ordered you to do it. The judge did. So I'm just enforcing what the judge wanted. And then that's basically it. Some people have to be seen more often, like gang members, which are in the North Carolina system are called SRG members, security risk group members. They have to be seen 3-4 times a month sometimes, because they're considered high risk offenders, because of essentially the life that they're living of what as deemed by the state of North Carolina. But on the other side, we do parole and post-release. So now parole was abolished in the state of North Carolina in the year of our Lord 1992, but it is still in our name for some reason. I don't know why, but we don't do parole anymore unless the offense was before the year 1992. We have what's called post-release. The main difference between the two is parole, you used to could refuse, and you could just stay in prison, finish your sentence up, and then come out a free man, whatever. Again, the state of North Carolina figured, hey, they're people are doing that, and they're not getting any better. They're not being stable. They're not re-entering society in a good space, and they're just becoming reoffending. So they made what's called post-release, and you cannot refuse post-release. It is essentially parole, like I said, and it is a 9 to 12 months, depending on your felony charge. You're supervised, like I said, it's we're the same officers, you're just on our caseload. But yet, if you violate your post-release, you're brought back to in front of a board of people in Raleigh. It's called the Post-Release Commission. It is 4 people that are essentially, if I say, hey, he's doing drugs, or hey, he got a new charge, I just present the evidence to them, and they either re-imprison them, or they put them back on an ankle monitor, house arrest, etc., Just they do different things. They usually escalate. They usually just don't send people straight back to prison. They usually try to give them another chance. Hey, let's put you on the monitor. Let's put you on house arrest to keep you out of trouble. Hey, let's send you to this 90-day drug treatment program, for example. We have that. It's called DART. That's over there in Wayne County. And they try to give these people chances, like I said, chance after chance, because some people don't figure it out on the first go. And you never bring them back to court, essentially. The commission is the court for that. But those are, especially, like I think I said in the very beginning, that is our special thing. Local traditional law enforcement is not allowed to arrest these people on parole warrants. If you ever hear anybody that's got a parole or post release warrants, we are the only ones in the state of North Carolina that can serve those type of warrants. So if law enforcement picks somebody up, when they run their name, say that 2, 3 in the morning, they run their name and see that they have a parole warrant, they can detain them and then they call and Raleigh, essentially, with the police department's dispatch will, and then they'll call us, and then we have on-call officers 24/7 in each county, a rotating list, and we would have to go out, serve that parole warrant, and that is a no bond hold warrant until that person can get in front of the post release commission. It is especially good because they're not going anywhere because they won't post any bond, they can't run away. So those are the only type of warrants that are extraditable usually, or felony warrants. So when somebody's in a different state, it's automatic extraditable, and we'll go get them. They have the same conditions basically as probation. It's just that added no bond condition. And if they violate, they go back to prison for whatever amount of months their post release was, either 9 or 12. So they could be I've seen it, sadly. They have a week left of post release. They violate it. Their good time, all that 9 months they did before that, goes away, and then they'll have to go to prison for 9 months because they got a new charge, for example. Is the unfortunate side, but they try not to do that very often. But some people get these high-level felonies and their hands are tied. But we do get marked cars, so we get take-home vehicles. Everybody, you have the option to have a take-home vehicle. It's not got lights and sirens or anything, but it's a state vehicle. They pay for the gas. I mean, you can't really beat that. I really rarely ever drive my personal vehicle because I'm working all the time anyways. So we got regular state retirement. You can either retire at 55 with 5 years of service, I think is what it is. 55 with 5 years of service, or 50 with 15 years of service. So we have, they're considering making it 25, but they probably never will. But we do start out around $46,000 essentially. But we have what's called a step plan raise now, which is 6 automatic raises that you'll get all the way up into the almost $70,000 range. That's you're gonna get that no matter what, no matter if it's already built into all the budgets. So which is good, and you get that on top of whatever state raises they give. So if the state elects to give state employees a 3% raise, that goes on top of your step raise. So I think last year I got like a 9 or 10% raise altogether. So it was nice. Nice quality of life stuff. But we do internships. If anybody would have any questions later on, that's mostly for anybody. It's only for juniors and seniors, but that is an in-person internship. And then basically it's paid. It's $18 an hour for undergrad, and then $22 an hour for graduate. Essentially you're with us the whole time. You get a vest. You can ride with us to do home contacts essentially, and the only thing you can't do is arrest somebody. You can't place your hands on anybody like that. But you ride with us, sit in the office with us, you do all the paperwork, I do the computer stuff, you go to court with us, you go to the home contacts with us. Basically, you do our job right there with us. It's just, and you're learning. It's good for anybody that wants to get a taste, especially younger people that are just coming out or are going to graduate school. And they're like, I don't know what I want to do. Do I want to do something federal, state, whatever? It just gives them a good taste, because I have heard a lot of people really like it, but I have heard a lot of people that get in and they're like, yeah, never mind. I don't want to have to deal with people like that, because you do deal with some difficult people. Most people they know why they're there. I mean, it is what it is. So you're not really like fighting somebody on it. But some people don't like the confrontation. So
Just to Mr. Cochran, what he just said, you all, we do have as part of our degree plan, the internship class. I'm sure all of you are familiar with that. And just to kind of piggyback on what Mr. Cochran just mentioned with regard to that, that is the exact type of internship experience that meets the requirement for the internship course. So just in case any of you, the HMLS 499 class, that's part of that can be one of the core course requirements for a student to meet. So if you were to apply for and obtain that type of internship, that is like the premier type of example I can give for the internship course requirements to be met. And I can't say enough for how much, as Mr. Cochran just said, that how rich that sort of experience can be, not just from an informative standpoint, but for any, whether you want to go into that kind of work, or if you want to use that as a basis to show a potential employer in another government sector that you actually were heavily involved in something. I can't say enough how much that counts when you're sitting down in front of an interview panel and you can say that, yes, I worked with Ms. Cochran as part of my internship program when I was an undergraduate at ECSU, blah, blah, blah. I mean, that goes over, it just it pays dividends down the road. And as Mr. Cochran just said, it also can inform you in terms of, do I really want to do this?
and it is like a job. You can, and again, you could do it in all 100 counties, whatever county you choose. Obviously you would have to drive to it. You don't get a state vehicle during your internship, but you would just have to drive to your the county you would work in. And you could either do 8 to 5, Monday to Friday, so it would essentially be your job at that time, and you get paid, or you could do like a half day type thing if you're managing other classes, or you already have a job and you have to do that stuff. So they're pretty flexible with that type of stuff. If you want to do full days, half days, whatever, you would just work. If you were to get it, you would just have to work with the supervisor that's in charge of that in that county. The only requirements that we have, so there's summer, spring, and fall internships for us. The summer ones have already been open and closed. The fall ones will open up in June or July timeframe. So usually spring is open up in January. The summer opens up in March, and then the other ones open up in spring or fall. You do have to be trying to get a criminal justice related degree, psychology, social work, sociology, law, homeland security, and something criminal justice related or social work related. You do have, and a big thing, and again, this is more younger people. This is not, you have to have a 2.5 GPA to apply. So you have to be on, decent, not like top of your class, but a lot of people just throw their studies to the side and they're like, oh, well, I need this internship to graduate. Well, you have to have that 2.5 GPA. You have to have a letter from your advisor. We have to have a reference letter, essentially, recommending you for this, and why they feel like it would be a good fit. Not so they're not just taking anybody. And that's basically it. You would just apply on the state website. If anybody had any questions, I'm the point of contact for how, to set up job stuff. But it is just, you just Google North Carolina job opportunities, and then in the little search bar, just type in probation, and it'll show you the openings that we have. And I'd say it's good. It's good exposure, and it's good when universities offer the class, so you can kind of get credit for it at the same time, and you get paid for it too, which has been a more recent thing. So that's always a good thing. But we do get state employee benefits. Obviously, we're full time. We're usually Monday to Friday hours, either 7 to 4, 8 to 5, 9 to 6. We get an hour lunch break. We get all state holidays off. We get like 3 or 4 days for Christmas. They give us 8 hours of it's called personal observance leave, for when they came out, when Juneteenth became a federal holiday. They don't give us Juneteenth off, but we can use that 8 hours at any time, or during the week. During the year that we see fit. We do have to work 1 weekend day a month minimum. Usually people work Sundays, so they can flex that and then have a 3-day weekend. And then if you work it out right, say like Memorial Day is coming up, and that's on a Monday, you work the Sunday before, so then you have a free 4-day weekend essentially. And a lot of people do that around Christmas, and you can get like a full week off and not have to use a single day of vacation or sick or anything like that. So it's pretty flexible. You make your own schedule essentially, as long as you meet the weekly work requirements. You can work. We have to work 4. I keep using quotes, night shifts, which is 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. and you get a 10% shift differential. You can work up to 12 of those a month. Mostly people use that to go out into the field, do arrests, see their home contacts, things like that. They do all their field work, go try to hunt down people that are running from them, things like that, because you have more out in the field time to do that. But those are the only requirements. We do a lot of training. I'm on the emergency response team for the state of North Carolina. We have 120 people in the state that are on that for probation parole. Like I went to Hurricane Helene last year. I was out there for about 2 months, with a break here and there, helping. We were hand in hand with the highway patrol. We were blocking roads, doing security stuff, crowd control, things like that, garden warehouses, just stuff like that you can get into. That is an extra duty, that you do get paid to be on the team, but we do have extra duties. We get more training, more combat training, like medic training, shooting training, crowd control training, just extra stuff like that. And that leads me to probably, I'd say, one of the last things. It is, so we're not like traditional law enforcement. We do not require BLET. We just require you have a 4-year degree. And that's like the basic requirement. There's other things, but we have our own basic training. Right now, it is 8 weeks. It would probably go up. When I went through, it was 6, and in those few years, it's been bumped up to 8, and then they'll probably bump it up to 10, is what I've been told. What they're doing is essentially they're not like adding anything new. What they're doing is, because before you go to training and then after you go to training, you have trainings that you were doing, but they just weren't part of basic training. So they're taking everything and just combining it into one, because they were finding when you're in your student mode, you're already in learning mode, you tend to gather information better. So when people were leaving basic training, they were disassociating from training mode. They're like, oh, I've made it. I've already, I've done this. And they were out of it. So they were retaining the information as well. So they're just adding things to basic training that were already there. It is either in Samarkand, North Carolina, or Salemburg, North Carolina, run by the Criminal Justice Standards and Training Commission. You stay there Monday to Friday in a little dorm room. You leave Friday afternoon, and you come back on Sunday. if you live close enough, to there, you could probably drive back and forth to your house, but you do have to keep a room there. We do have to get pepper spray. We do carry pepper spray. We have tasers. You don't have to get tased, but you do have to do the training. Being tased is optional. Pepper spray is not. I'd rather get tased every day of the week than pepper spray. Pepper spray sucks really, really bad. And we do carry a Glock 45 firearm. You have to qualify for that. Even if you've never shot a firearm before, they give you plenty of time to get it acclimated to that. They teach you the in and outs, how to break it down, basic breakdown, and then they give you plenty of time, plenty of time to practice and qualify for them. The qualifications, I'd say it's not very difficult, but I'm pretty good with firearms. Other people might argue with me about that, but it's not as difficult as other law enforcement agencies. I would say it gives you a good base starting, and then you can get into more advanced shooting stuff later on in your career. But I'd say mostly that's all I can think. Baseline. I mean, if anybody has any specific questions, I can answer anything, and if not, if they think about anything, you've got my information, Mr. Bishop. I can
Yes, sir. Yeah.
I can answer anything later on, anything specific or anything nobody wants to ask, out loud.
Well, Mr. Cochran, first and foremost, wow, I thank you for your time today. Really, you are our kickoff for Career Week, and I'm not exaggerating. You set the bar kind of high. I mean, you hit all the elements. You talked about your work. You made it relatable. You even talked about the internship opportunity, and I just like to just first and foremost thank you.
Oh yeah, no problem. Anytime you have me, man. Hey, look, they literally pay me to do this, which is crazy. So I get good at it, and it's good that I love what I do. So I'm not speaking just because it's because they pay me. I wouldn't do it for free, but I love what I do, and I'll do it for the next 25 years. And I'm not exaggerating. I love this job, and it's state government, so it's got its ups and downs. You can't win every battle, and it's got its political things. You get different governors here and there, but the base job of it stays the same. And if you think of the positives, they outweigh the negatives by a long, long haul. So, like I said, if it helps that I love the job, so it gives me easier to talk about it. It's not a chore.
Oh, well, absolutely, and it's what you do is one of the sectors that it encompasses so many things, as you captured it in the beginning of your talk. You have so many varied disciplines that you bring into the field, and even a little bit of social work aspect to the job. But but there is nothing that captures more the modern day mission from a homeland security perspective in ways that people many times just do not see. And it's the type of your work, and so I think that's just super important. I'll any of the students, I know we had a couple of students who joined uh, uh, as the session went on, and for those students who joined late, I did make note of the time. I caught y'all trying to slip in, but that's okay. At least you got on the bus, and that's that's the most important thing. But do any of you have any questions for Mr. Cochran with the time left we have in the hour?
Yes. Hi, Mr. Cochran. So I kind of was a little bit interested in the sector where you was talking about y'all offer some mental health like rehabilitation for those offenders. Would that be a separate training, or would that still be under probation?
So essentially, like baseline, you're just a probation officer, but when you get into once you get certified and everything, you can specialize if the opportunity is there. Like if nobody else is doing it, like like that, you could specialize in mental health or, like I said, sex offender, SRG, like gangs, domestic violence, things like that. I do mental health. They do offer in North Carolina, in New Hanover County, we have what's called mental health court, which we have a specific like court just for offenders that are placed on probation, so they can get more one-on-one like treatment like with the court, because it's not as like it's not formal like court. The judge will call them up, and essentially they've been given a brief of like what's going on with this person, and they meet every 2 weeks, and they know like the ins and outs of them. They basically are like it's informal, and they just talk to them. It's not like punishing. You're just it's more accountability because you're around them more often. But as far as training, they send us to. I've personally went to. It's a week-long training called CIT, which is a crisis intervention team training, and it's very good. It's 40 hours of just straight mental health stuff, and they teach about every single common diagnosis, and then they actually bring in some people who have those diagnoses to speak to you so you can see and like interact with those people, ask them any type of questions. And they also bring in psychologists and things like that so that you can they can relate it to criminal justice, because again, these people with mental health issues, they almost never have any positive interaction with law enforcement because of their conditions. So with us, we've kind of got to approach them because we're in their space. So we kind of got to approach them in a different way. Besides, because the law enforcement side, you can teach hands-on stuff. You can teach somebody how to arrest. But like Mr. Bishop was saying, I was going to say is the biggest weapon out of all the weapons that I speak is right here. It's your mouth. You can talk your way out of a lot of things, and you can also talk your way into some things. I know some people that do the opposite, but if you learn to talk and learn to just get yourself out of stuff, you'll have a much easier time, especially with people who have mental health stuff, because it is very difficult to understand what their thinking is, because it's not in the tradition. You're not thinking I don't want to say the right way, but they're not thinking the way you and I are thinking logically. They're in their own world sometimes, and you just got to meet them where they're at. And sometimes you just got to let some stuff go because they say some wild stuff, and you're just doing your best. But they try. The state has evolved a lot in mental health training for us as employees, and we go to a lot of refresher trainings as well to try to and you talk to a lot of treatment providers too. So when you're talking to these treatment providers, you can ask them any questions, and usually they educate you a lot on behaviors and why people are acting this way or what triggers somebody to do it like this, if that answers your question.
It did. Thank you very much.
Anybody else have any questions while you all think? Oh, Mr. Sparks, go right ahead.
Yep. How you doing, Mr. Cochran? The question I have for you is, how of an easy transition do you feel it is for somebody that's been in the military transitioning into doing anything in Homeland Security, especially in your line of work of what you're doing right now?
I would say honestly, that's I think this is why I love it so much, because a lot of our stuff is we don't have partners, traditional partners, but our statewide arrest policy is that you have to have somebody with you to arrest somebody, and they do that for safety. But you also when you're doing these home contacts, also again safety, you want to have somebody to have your back. Again, we're not like the traditional law enforcement. We're not just riding around the streets and responding to things, and then we have to call for backup. usually when we know, say I get a tip that somebody's got and I'll relate this to what your question is, I promise. I'm going to circle around. You have, again, I got 60 officers in the office that I worked at. You know, if you can make a friend and have brotherhood, and you be like, dude, I just got a tip. My dude's got, you know, a pound of cocaine and a bunch of guns, and you're not going into that by yourself. And usually you can, and I know of two handfuls of people I could call right now, and without even not even a blink of an eye, they'd be like, all right, just tell me where to be. And I can relate that to I think that's why I like it so much from going in the Marine Corps, when you got to embrace the suck, you know, just you got to be in these death by PowerPoint trainings. You got to be out on the range all day and it's 100 degrees, and you know you're all out there together. You know, you're rolling around together doing all these trainings. You're going to all these things together, and some people it's just work and then they move along and then it is what it is. But some people that understand the gravity of creating a brotherhood or a sisterhood, like as soon as I get done with this, I'm gonna go eat lunch with a girl that I worked with, that she's became my best friend through this job. And even my wife, you know, and normally, and I'm not getting, you know, like another female, my wife, she doesn't even care. She understands that there's they have that common understanding. And I've got, again, I'm so many group chats and all sorts of things. You just create like a bond with the people that you work with, because it's any police department, but a lot of criminal justice stuff, especially in this job, because you want to complain about one of your offenders being stupid, they they've been through the same thing, and you just like they're there to vent, and you get that brotherhood and sisterhood type deal that you can't. The only second to none is my Marine Corps days, I would say. In the prison, you're like shuttered and you're alone and you're like locked away for 12 hours. And I'm not talking bad about my, you know, prison counterparts, but you're more alone there. Here, you're in the community. You're always talking to people, having relationships. Relationships are big in this job. So, like I said, the mouth, you learn a lot. No, I hope that answers your question.
Yes, sir. It does. I also feel that, you know, by us being in the military, being in the Marine Corps for me, and being in the infantry, you have a more heightened sense of security. And I think a lot of times that makes things carry over when you're doing a job that has sort of high risk in it. What you did in the military for high risk, it sort of carries over. And like I said, your heightened security measures of thinking outside the box and seeing certain situations a little bit more better. I think that you make that transition a little bit more easier if you've had that experience earlier and coming back into civilian world.
I agree. Yeah, because you do go into some sketchy places now, and you kind of have to go in. I mean, it is what it is. But it kind of helps when somebody's, but the person behind you's got your back, no matter what, and they're not going to run away when it gets bad. So that makes you feel a little bit better.
You know, Mr. Cochran, on related to that question, I think that a lot of people who, whether they are first-time, very young students or coming back to get their degree after living some life, a lot of our students at ECSU may, in fact, have found a way to get out of the environments that you often have to go into. And I think from a transitional standpoint and a relatable standpoint, I think that's why your kind of work is something that a lot of students may not initially believe is something they can do, but it's something they could be great at because they can transition to because if they've done what has to be done to get to where they are presently at ECSU, then if they have an interest in your line of work, I think they could soar in many ways because of what I just mentioned about having to make it from the kind of environment that you often have to go into.
I agree.
Yeah. One quick question I have for you, Mr. Cochran. Do you receive overtime pay for court appearances and legal proceedings?
Usually, so we do get regular overtime because we're not salaried. When you only get salaried when you get a supervisor position. Um, Usually court, I didn't mention court in my little spiel, but court is part of, I say court is part of the job. So like I said, you make your schedule. So my court dates in New Hanover County for my district court dates were every first and third Thursdays of the month. And then my superior court dates were every first Monday of the month. So I know when I arrest somebody or I set my court dates. So say I arrest you and then bring you to the magistrate and I say, magistrate so-and-so, please put them on the 5th of March, and they put them on that date, and I set the whole day aside just for that, on that Thursday, so I don't have to have any appointments or anything afterwards. So basically it's just built into your day-to-day operations. But we do get overtime for other things, like say I was to find, I have to arrest somebody at 4:30 and I have to go to the jail and that takes 2 hours. We do get compensated for that regularly.
Understood. With the few minutes we have left, does anyone else have any questions before we let Mr. Cochran go?
Oh, yes, sir. I have one.
Mhm.
What was the website that we could go to look for internships?
I will post that in the little chat for you. I've got you.
Thank you.
Yep. This is that right there. And then basically when you pull that up, there's going to be like a little search bar and you just type in probation or type in internship in a little search bar and it'll show what's available at the current time. Like I said, right now it says so there's a summer internship, but that's only for District 4, which is the mountains. We're broke up into 4 districts in the state of North Carolina. I'm in Division 1, which is the Eastern, and it goes all the way over to the mountains, which is Division 4. So they've closed everything else, but that's where you would find it, and that's where you would apply for the job in general. Any state job, that website is the website, even if you don't do any probation or parole or anything. So I would just recommend you create an account because everything is internal on that website. So like that's where you'd upload your resume, add all your job experiences, your certifications, your all that stuff, your DD 214, all that stuff. So I would just go ahead and create an account, and if anybody has any issues with that, I have instructions on how to set up, and you can set up job alerts on there so that like, hey, there's no internships on there right now. You can set it up that it'll send you an email anytime something related to the job area, like probation, for example, it'll email you and let you know, hey, this job opened up, and it'll give you the link to it automatically.
Thank you for sharing that, Mr. Cochran. And I copy that, and I'll be, if you're amenable, I'll be distributing that to the rest of our student population forthwith after we're done here. So thank you for sharing. Yeah. Well, again, I can't say enough how much we appreciate your time, Mr. Cochran. And this has been great. And we'll definitely love to have you back when we roll through Career Week again in this program.
Yeah, anytime you need me. And if you and you have my email, so if anybody's interested in anything, and they want to know any more information, and I'll put this in the chat too. This is a little interest form thing. If they fill this out right here, like with their information, it automatically like goes to this little database thing, and it sends me an email with their name, contact information. And this again, part of my job, I just reach out to them by email or text or whatever, and answer any questions that they have. And it kind of helps me keep track of everybody's progress. If they do apply, I can keep track of who, and like if they have any HR hold up or something, they're like, hey, I haven't heard anything in 2 weeks. And I can be like, oh, okay, yeah, this is what's going on with it. Cause I have contacts with it that normal people wouldn't. So I can speed up things like that.
That's great. I mean, how many times have we been in a situation where we've applied for some type of endeavor and it's been crickets, and you're
Mhm.
like, okay, I just put out all this information, spent, you know, all this time doing this package. It was like writing a term paper, and now it's yeah. So that's a great resource. Yeah,
Yep,
thank
nothing for 2 weeks, and you're like, "What's going on?" Sometimes it's
you.
just a hold up in Raleigh. Sometimes it's this, and so where they're like, "Hey, we're just trying to figure this out," and that's where I come in, and I can help ease your mind on that type of things, or be like, "Hey, can you push this through this person, or so and so." So I say I'm a good resource for that.
That's great. I, you don't see that everywhere. Well, thank you again, Mr. Cochran, and
Yep.
for the students, thank you all for your time as well. Seriously, I know this is a part of your day, and thank you all for showing up.
Yep. Appreciate you having me. Just let me know
All
when you
right,
need me back.
okay, out here.